Good to know the chairperson had your back. Yeah.
Hi, everybody, welcome.
Oh, it's fine.
This is a work session. Daniel? Randy? This is a work session. Robert's Rules of Order. Today is April 28th. It's 11:18 a.m.
Dude, minus my spot. I need this.
Karen?
He doesn't.
Come back. Sorry. Thank you. I have to leave early, I'm glad you're here, Daniel. And so this is a fun session run by the clerk. And before we get started, we'll go ahead and do introductions. Starting with Salt.
So Randy Salt, District 6, South Anchorage.
Karen Bromley, District 5. Anna Brawley, District 3.
Scott Myers, District 2. Zach Johnson.
Daniel Bowman, District 1, North Anchorage.
Christopher Constant.
George Martinez.
Jennifer Beniclaza, Municipal Clerk's Office.
Jamie Hines, Municipal Clerk's Office.
Jessica Willoughby, I'm the Assistant Municipal Attorney.
Dean Gates, City Council.
That was Dean Gates, Assembly Council. So the purpose of today's meeting is to start familiarizing folks in real time with the charter motions, rules of order, the rules generally that we abide by in our meetings. So Jamie Hines, you have the floor.
Thank you. So for the Robert's Rules of Order training today, we're going to play a little game. And so if we want to divide up into 3 teams, I think that would be, there's 7, so there's no way to divide evenly, but if you want to do 3 and a 2 and a 2.
We're good.
You're in church.
Well, Christopher can't play because we would all perish.
Okay, so we have, I think, 2, 3.
I think those 3,
Are we close?
I had Karen and Randy, and then was it Scott and Zach, and you and George?
Just kidding.
Yeah.
You said you're a ringer.
Okay, and then the next thing is, do you want to come up with a team name?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead and
If
take
you
a
don't
minute
have to,
and come up with team names, and then we will
if
put
we
your
don't come
team
up with
names
names,
into
Mark,
the
you will.
system.
You're out an idea.
Good.
We'll go with Team Wolf. We'll go with Team Wolverine. No particular context for that.
South Anchorage.
Champions.
Get out there. Team 2, what was your name?
Champion.
The champion?
I like it. The players in the game.
Did you have already?
Yeah.
We're gonna be the T-Birds.
Nice. Is that a Grease reference?
Oh, no, man. It's what he said.
Okay, so I want to start off with just a little context. So Robert's Rules of Order, the majority rules, but the minority has the right to be heard and to attempt to change the minds of the majority. And so Robert's Rules is set up to create decorum so that the minority can get called on by the chair and state their case. In some agencies, it goes back and forth between a positive and a negative. It's impossible for, or a positive, like a for and against, a pro and a con. And so it's very difficult for us to know to go back and forth with a pro and a con. So, and it's, for us, it's just more of in order of who gets in the queue first. But my last question is, before we get going, is how many of you have experienced Robert's Rules of Order in maybe community council meetings or chambers of commerce's, or does everybody have some sort of context with Robert's Rules of Orders? A little bit, okay. Okay,
Just a little note on what that means, the back and forth, is in some deliberative bodies, you have a motion, you have those who support the motion and those who oppose the motion. As a matter of saving time, you let one go for, one go against, one go for, until you get to the one that's exhausted, no more in that line, and then the next side gets to go one more time, and then you vote. And so that's the procedure in those bodies, different here though.
and now we know why Christopher isn't playing. Okay, so we will start with team number one, the T-Birds. Which one would you like to begin with?
You go. Which one do we do? Do you entertain 300?
Do you entertain 300?
A member who takes this action to show support for a motion before debate.
Can they just shout out?
Yeah, can we?
The
They do
team
it.
one needs to come up with the answer.
Remember we changed this action to show support. I mean, I guess, well. Oh, okay.
My very hard to learn.
You can try that.
We're gonna say, what is a second?
Yes. Alright, so they get the 300 points for that.
Before a motion.
Yes,
Listen, that.
support for a motion, okay?
Everything before us is a motion.
Team two, champions, which one would you like to go with?
Go for it.
Oh, no, you didn't for 400.
The presiding officer must remain impartial, impartial on the body so that the presiding officer must remain impartial, so cannot take this action.
That question should be reworded.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the body instead of the body. Or, yeah, on the body.
I would just take out the words the body.
Yes, just delete those words.
Okay, do you have an answer?
Yeah, I think so.
Go for it.
They cannot speak to the motion.
Is make a motion or debate the motion. So I'm gonna give that to them because speaking to the motion is debating the motion.
So as a practical
Love that,
matter,
champion.
but before you want to, as a practical matter, everybody on our body needs to participate. So our adopted practice, which is a custom, which is also part of Robert's rules, is that the chair hands the gavel to the vice chair, and the vice chair recognizes the chair as the chair for that part of the discussion. But never makes a motion that I have seen.
Agenda for 300.
The third order of assembly business. Ooh, think back to the agenda.
Like what's in the third?
It could be argued this isn't the Robert's Rules question. That this is a section 230 question. And C.
Is it the land acknowledgement?
So,
It is. They're the same item. They're the same item.
okay, we're gonna give it to you because it's the same item. It's the pledge of allegiance and the land acknowledgement.
I think I was pledged to.
This is the board like remains.
Okay, back to the T-Birds.
T-birds.
The agenda for 500.
Wow, okay.
Come on, Dan.
The last item of assembly business, this is everybody's favorite motion to make.
There you go. Daylight comes and we want to go adjourn.
And that is correct. champions, you are next. What,
Do you entertain for 400?
do you entertain for 400? The number of members needed for a typical motion to pass.
I wonder if this has been updated.
I was just asking.
I'm not entirely sure if this is updated, but
yeah.
It'll be a good discussion.
What is that?
But that's
So-
not
Yes.
Same. Okay.
according to Robert's rules, it's a majority, and 7 is, huh?
Question's wrong.
That asks for a number.
A majority is in fact not a number.
Yeah. What's portion?
Because if 2 people are absent, does the number change or something?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
So in Robert's rules, it would, but on the English assembly, it would not, it's still 7. The Wolverines, you get to pick the next.
Commonly used phrases, 400.
Point of order.
Can you clarify what the question is?
So you need to come up with a question, point of order is the answer. So if you want to look at your chart of motions, it might help you out.
We have our answer.
Go ahead.
Something a member would, or what is something a member would say if they feel a procedural rule has been broken?
There you go.
Yep, a statement contrary to Robert's rules if a rule has been broken, or if a statement is made to object to a personal affront.
Can I ask just to clarify, so basically if somebody does something that's out of bounds, including a personal attack or speaking to motive, or, so it's not just procedural, it's other, okay.
And then the chair makes a ruling.
Yeah, I think it could be argued that those are procedural, right? If the procedure is you don't do those things, but that's great. So, Mr. Cross, since you're here, you have to pick a team, either the champions or the T-Birds.
Yeah, we're already free, so.
You have to come here or here.
Oh, you can get a leg wrestle over me.
Well, these guys don't have an current, or an old.
Yeah.
That's true.
Attorney
Yeah.
member, so.
Yeah, that's fair.
Although my teammates is like carrying.
So you are now a champion.
Don't let us down. We get on no problems.
Okay, back to the T-Birds.
It's risky, but we're gonna do commonly used phrases for 500.
So the answer is I abstain.
Illegal. Yes, you are not allowed to. You will be an obligation, a duty to vote.
So it's a statement used by a member to not vote and is not allowed by English code. So I need to get that to you, because you do have, if you have a declared and confirmed conflict of interest, then you do abstain and you leave the room. But in some bodies, you may abstain.
So question, so if someone gets up and leaves the room, how do you mark that?
We might, well,
Abstain.
if they just left the room without a conflict of interest, then we just mark them as absent.
But if they've abstained.
Yeah, if
they've
they've done the confirmed conflict, then they're recused in the minutes.
That's true on base. Because they can't.
Oh, I guess that's in on base because it is recused. And then they fix it later in the minutes, in the Word version. Okay. Next is champions.
Let's go big money.
What do you do?
Oh, do you entertain hodge? I like hodgepodge.
Let's touch it yet.
I'm not scared.
Okay.
Before we go to hashtag, can we just clarify, under the assembly rules, members cannot stand on their own.
Right.
Just want to clarify that. Playing along here.
So hodgepodge for 500, the answer is objection or I object.
A statement made by, or do we talk amongst ourselves first?
Yeah, we. I think it's longer than
The name is champions, not team players. Throwing it out.
What do you think?
Well, it's typically used as a statement made by one of the members to object to an action against procedures. I object. If somebody's speaking out of turn, or maybe they made a procedure error, and you would say, I object, and the chair would say, what's your objection?
If you're enforced, I disagree. But
Okay, what's your answer?
Objection is a statement made to dispute an item on the floor, or a motion that's been made that may be an error or a procedural error. Not quite a procedural error, but procedural error.
Statement a member makes when opposed to taking unanimous action, or when the member believes considering the matter is improper. So I'm going to give that because that was believing the matter was improper.
Okay.
I object.
good job.
He was getting
Change
it.
match.
Avoid considering an improper matter or objecting to considering an improper motion.
So before we go there, I just want to go back to that last one for a minute. Our accepted procedure for registering an objection is one we previously discussed, which is point of order. It's not just a shout, I object, right? And so I think the nuance of the objection is to stop an action that's about to occur, right? So keep that in mind, right? So an action is about to occur. The chair is about to call for a vote or has said, I ask for unanimous consent. I object, don't proceed, right? Stop for a minute. And so you could also use the point of order in that moment to declare, I believe there's been a process violation of some kind. And so our standard process for that would be point of order. And then an objection in our standard process is when a unanimous consent request is made from the chair. You can say, I object, I would like to take a vote on this matter or discuss it. And so those are the real practical implications, how we use them. But you can use the I object to interrupt the proceeding from moving forward just long enough to get the chair's attention and essentially ask for a point of order to make a clarification.
Can I add one other thing here? The objection, not only when the chair asks for unanimous consent, but when the chair is making a ruling, an objection is always going to include that ruling provided by then the conflicts of interest ethics questions. Sometimes that looks all absolute.
And the practical measure that we use in that case would be, you can say, I object and I move to override the ruling of the chair. Right, so the actual process, the real process is I move to override the ruling of the chair. And so in the case of I disagree with the ruling is you have an action that you can take is make a motion. And so, but you have to get the floor and that can be through I object or anyhow. So that's the nuance there.
Mr. Cross. Mr. Cross has a question.
Hey, you guys might have covered this because I wandered in late, but is there specific instances where you can only use unanimous consent versus a vote? Or is it just the ruling of the chair for X by time? Like,
It's just at the will of the chair for
Okay.
in consideration of time.
I didn't know if it's just strictly applied to certain circumstances, like you absolutely could do unanimous consent on AOs. It only refers to time extensions, things like that. Like, I'm just
there
curious what
might.
the rules are, the parameters that.
I know in TNI we had a rule that AOs had to be by roll call vote.
I would add, and I apologize. We had an Open Meetings Act presentation this morning, this statute, but we cut off the end of it that says the vote of each member must be recorded or must be identified. And so, but that doesn't really apply to those procedural motions, Robert's rules motions, that applies to votes on items and measures. So each of those get unanimous consent.
And any member can, if there is a unanimous consent request, ask for the vote to be recorded, right? So that's the pushback against that, but generally procedural. And the decision of what's procedural is usually a conversation between the chair and the clerk, subject to review by the body, so anyone can speak up.
So we'll go with, do you entertain for 500?
So glad you guys remembered this next. This technique is used to immediately end debate.
My favorite one.
Yes. Let's go.
Also known as the undeclared uncle. Do you call it, what do you say when you call the question?
Yes.
What is to call the question? That is correct. So it's non-debatable and it actually brings the body to a vote. Should we call the question? So we have to vote on whether or not we're gonna call the question, and then we vote on the motion itself.
So what's important about that? Anyone? What's important about that motion and why it's like not debatable, it requires a majority? Anyone?
Can I answer?
No, you can't answer, go ahead.
Well, a lot of times in a heated discussion, we get in the habit of just regurgitating the same information over and over again.
So that's on the pro side.
The pro side.
Right, on why you would make the motion.
Yeah.
But why do you think the motion is set to have a supermajority requirement?
That way you don't, essentially a narrow majority couldn't railroad through things by, like say, cutting off the minority essentially.
Right, that's exactly it. So the reality behind Robert's rules is it's set up not just to protect the minority or the majority, but it's set up to protect both. And a supermajority, Robert's rules boils down to two simple principles. The first principle is the majority rules. And the second principle is that if you're going to take somebody's right from them, you have to have a supermajority to agree with you. And by ending debate, calling the question, you are taking the right of someone who would otherwise want to continue talking. And so the practical matter is it requires a supermajority to do that because the rules respect the right of every member to participate fully. And so that's the reason why. And whenever you see a 2/3 supermajority, it generally accrues to the fact that you are going to be moving to take away the right of some individual or some process that would otherwise be available. So in a big picture, the meta level, that's what is happening and why these rules exist.
Can I ask a follow-up too? So in terms of actually using this in practice, it seems like it would not be a friendly move to just, for example, suddenly call the question immediately on every item, but that in the rules that you can ask to call the question as soon as a motion and second is made, right, and debate begins. So obviously that's not usually the practice because the point is to have the debate first.
Absolutely.
But there's no minimum requirement of something that needs to happen before that.
And I think it would depend on which side you're on, whether you think it's a good thing or not. But, practically speaking, yes, it's not custom to attempt to do it that way. It wouldn't be fair. It would certainly be against the mission that we've been elected to do. Randy?
Yeah, I think we've used it in the past where you kind of know how the vote's gonna go, and we just keep debating, and it's almost a time-saving measure at that point. I call the question.
When would you like?
Take 500.
Yeah, we're gonna do, oh no, you didn't, for 500.
This motion brings back a previous action and is not amendable.
So what is reconsideration or motion to reconsider?
That is correct.
In some other bodies, it's called calling the previous question. And it has some different ramifications depending where you are. The rules are different in the UK, the US, et cetera. So yeah, under the code, and this is not a Robert's Rules issue, but under the code, a motion to reconsider it is bound in time. You can always do it during the same session. I mean, and a session is a meeting in the context of our business, but the code requires that the motion to reconsider if some factor has changed for a member must be moved and seconded and sent to the clerk before the end of the next day. So it's within 24 hours, but practically it's the end of the next day at midnight, so 11:59 p.m.
And I'll just add, you can also, if you happen to vote, I'll say correctly the way you didn't want to, you can reconsider to change that vote. I've done it, and I know a few others have done it, so.
And I will say to that, yes, you can do that. And practically speaking, if it didn't change the outcome, weigh that decision with the amount of time we have and the number of items on the agenda, right? Because having the record recorded in exactly that way, in 100 years, someone might think you voted yes on an item, you think you voted no on. It doesn't really matter when you have 20 items to get to. So it's just a judgment call. If it's a significant issue to you, then fine. But just weigh whether it's of value to do that, because it's not worth it on small sidebar issues.
And also to reconsider, you need to have voted on the prevailing side.
Right. And the prevailing side does not mean yes. It means the side
If
that
the,
won.
right,
yes
if the
or no.
motion failed, then you have voted no.
But the second doesn't have to have voted that way.
Correct. Does that make sense? Okay, champions, you get to take the next question.
Hodgepodge, please, for 400.
Hodgepodge for 400, the second speaker in debate on a motion in Robert's rules.
The second speaker on debate. Sponsor? It's not.
Okay, I debated telling you this, but it
Don't
doesn't.
tell him.
Okay.
Don't tell him.
So, Robert's rules, strict facts, Chris is playing. The second person speaking is supposed to be speaking.
Oh, yeah.
You gave it to him.
So
Look at you, put your hand on the scale.
minus for
The second speaker would be someone opposed to the motion.
In a standard Robert's rules proceeding.
But for us, it's just.
My team.
Here in the beginning.
We're getting matching deputies.
So we talked about this a little bit, that, in traditional Robert's rules and not in necessarily anchored assembly proceedings, there's the motion and then the speaker or the maker of the motion speaks in the for and then, or the pros, and then the second member in theory is a con statement. And again, we don't get to do that because we go in queue order, so.
There you go.
And the Wolverines?
We will do the agenda for 400.
The fourth order of assembly business.
Oh.
That's the category I'm never good at. Okay.
Our answer is the mayor's report.
Yeah.
You got that right over here.
I really get the matching tattoos
Oh
now.
my God.
Did you get it right?
We're going to unitards now.
Okay, T-Bird.
Just floods with imagery. Wow.
Commonly used phrases for 300, please.
So the phrase is, members may vote.
So I guess this would be a question the chair asks at the end of debate when there's nobody in the queue. What is that?
What is the statement made after debate is concluded and how the body makes the decision? So that would be yes. Correct. Champions.
So it's gonna go big. You guys pick.
Oh, no, you didn't. 300.
Friendly amendment.
In your suggestion to change to amendment. Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
When you're suggesting a change to an amendment, suggesting a change to amendment.
Good Lord.
Suggesting a change to an amendment.
The answer is what is out of order, because there are no such things as friendly amendments.
See, I was right. I was like, I didn't know there was unfriendly amendment. I've never been attacked that way.
So in a lot of less formal bodies, they do this. I would like to make a friendly amendment, and there is no such thing. But caveat being, in our process, we have been, and it's always been like this, a little bit liberal, for lack of a better word, like liberally construing the idea that a mover and a seconder can amend their motion before an action's taken on it, which has, I think, the same net effect as this, but it doesn't require a vote. As long as the main motion is there or the secondary motion hasn't been amended, so someone else has the motion, then the mover and the seconder can agree to a change of language, to an addition of a phrase, to different number, whatever might be the case. And so, yes, friendly amendments don't exist, even though community councils use them all the time, but practically speaking, we have some flexibility.
And you will hear this phrase
Yes.
on the floor. It is used.
And I think the point is that we want the record to be clear, the record being the minutes. The minutes are the permanent record of the body, and we want to make sure that the clerks know what the true motion is. And so now that we have on base and we have the ability to put it up on the screen so everybody can read it, is this what you meant? We can be a little bit lenient on that, but it isn't our favorite things.
So I'm leaving and I'm gonna put this here and they can wrestle over it.
Okay. So the Wolverines are next.
Hodgepodge for 300.
The first speaker in debate on a motion.
Well, we don't want to get caught in the trap of the Roberts Rules versus assembly practice, but we think it's either the sponsor or the mover of the motion. It's not like a sponsor of an ordinance in that example.
The mover or the maker.
I think it's the mover, because even if you have 3 co-sponsors on an AR or an AO, so whoever says move to approve, the chair's gonna go to that person first, even if they're not one of the co-sponsors.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a good
I
point.
think I did say both, but to be fair, we said the mover, but then I didn't qualify.
Okay.
I think
All right.
I would love to see the.
Unanimous. Thanks. All right, 2 words.
Okay, I'll move. Yeah, okay. Do entertain for 200.
The member who starts the motion.
I guess I would say who is the mover, member who starts the motion. The member who starts the motion, the mover.
Yep. Always the
Yeah,
maker.
it's the same as.
I feel like a circular.
Right, we're going back to the easy.
Yeah.
We got the hard ones out.
Yeah.
It's so
Go for the hard ones for the points, but now they're getting easier, so.
Agenda, hodgepodge, we gotta go with
I say we just run through the agenda.
It's your turn.
I know, I already picked one. I haven't heard you pick one.
Don't commonly use phrases for 200.
Moment of personal privilege is the answer.
Let's see what their exact terms. I know what it is and how we use it.
No.
Read it verbatim so we don't get it wrong.
Yep. What is raise a question of privilege, bring up a matter pertaining to the right or individual member? Period.
If it was, capital
That's
R,
just my guess. Yes.
So this is a statement used to interject information not related to the agenda of the meeting. I can't hear because the room is too noisy, or I'd like to wish my wife a happy anniversary or the 40th wedding anniversary today. So it is a matter pertaining to the rights of the body or an individual member.
That's an interesting one, because sometimes I think we use point of information instead of this, when we should be using this for like that first scenario. I can't hear because the room is too noisy, so we should maybe say moment of personal privilege. But in the second case, when it's something kind of unrelated to debate, I think depending on who the chair is, they might like a heads up, you know, my wife and I just had a new baby, and I'd like to, during initial or final member comments at the end of the meeting, or when we're doing like our committee reports, sometimes people will say moment of personal privilege, but usually it's a good idea to run that by the chair first.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We do spend time every meeting with the chair and vice chair and the clerks, just sort of contingency planning and trying to do the flow of the meeting, so that information is super helpful.
Pete singing the Alaska flag song on Tuesday was an example. He told the chair in advance that he wanted to sing the Alaska flag song at the meeting, and so it was a moment of personal privilege which he had requested of the chair.
Can I ask, sorry, just a quick question too. So let's say there's 3 items on the agenda. I assume it's not proper to use personal privilege if we're on item 2 and then I say something about item 3, because it would be, that's something the chair would probably say is out of order.
Right. And so in that case, if you wanted to move, then you would move to
Change the order of the day agenda, or
change the order of the day.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking the scenario where I just, in the middle of debate, make a comment on some other thing that's later in the agenda, but that makes sense too, I can change the order.
I think also it's standard practice is 1 moment of personal privilege, at least in the ceremonial instance, per meeting, per member.
Okay, I don't remember who's next.
It is the Wolverines.
Wolverines.
Is this?
Okay, we'll do, oh no, you didn't for 2 minutes.
Speaking more than once before all members who wish to speak have spoken.
Out of order? That's what I think, but, I'm not very good at this.
Think you're on to something, Randy?
Yeah.
What is out of order or point of order?
Out of order.
Too hard.
T-Birds.
Agenda, 200.
That's the toughest category, but we can do it.
Second order of business.
This is what is the roll call?
There you go.
Yes. Good job.
Champions.
Somebody doing this.
Hodgepodge for 200.
A phrase that directs comments to the chair to maintain decorum and avoid personal attacks.
Yo. Phrase that directs comments to the chair. We've been so nice to each other, I haven't seen the personal attack. Yeah, I just hit bridge.
What?
Oh. I think that's the best thing I can come up with, is just using through the chair, so it directs the chair's attention. A phrase that directs comments to the chair, through the chair? All right, oh, gosh.
Nice.
Content,
That was tricky.
That should have been a $400 question.
Wolverines.
You're watching state legislation.
We'll do agenda for
The first order of business.
So I think we figured out the order of those questions. That's call to order.
Very good. Keywords.
Yeah, sure. Let's do you entertain 100?
Basic technique used to place business before the body.
What is the agenda?
It's a motion to
Okay.
make a motion.
I see where you're going.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
I think we should probably get credit for that.
I don't think so.
You can't make a motion if you don't have an agenda.
Johnny, show me one.
Champions.
Hodgepodge 100.
The time during the meeting that members give their opinions on a motion pending before the body.
What is the date?
What is the name? Very good. Wolverines.
Oh, no, you didn't for 100.
This motion made at the end of the meeting is not debatable.
What is motion to adjourn?
Very good. And Stevers, back to you. You get a lot of options here.
Commonly used phrases. 100.
Basic technique to get business before the body using the language I move.
What is a motion?
Ooh, that one was rough. All right, there you go. So we have treats, so congratulations everybody for our rules of Jeopardy.
Yeah, we got our score, but.
We will have our treats.
You know,
Right.
And
For our winners.
better to mess up here than, you know, on YouTube live stream.
Yeah, no kidding.
I guess we're not getting this.
And the chair has
I am, but
announced
you
the
have to sell
name.
for an iron on.
Oh,
Why does it hurt so bad?
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
We're in a work session, so.
Oh, I'm just gonna adjourn.
So we're-